I'm 28M, and I want to preface this by saying I am not someone who posts on here. Ever. I've lurked for years, upvoted a few things, moved on. But this situation has been sitting in my chest for weeks, and my buddy told me to just write it out, so here we are. I'm 6'1", I work in regional logistics operations, and up until about a month ago, I had a 2-year relationship that I genuinely thought was going somewhere. I was wrong. And the way I found out exactly how wrong I was is the reason I'm typing this at midnight instead of sleeping. So let me back up. My girlfriend and I met through mutual friends at a birthday party. She was funny, sharp, had this energy that filled a room. She ran a lifestyle Instagram account with a decent following, around 53,000 at the time we broke up, and she was always working on growing it. I supported that. Genuinely. I'm not one of those guys who gets weird about his partner having a public presence. I thought it was cool that she was building something. What I didn't clock early enough was that I was part of that building process, whether I agreed to it or not, and that she'd made a decision somewhere along the way that I was useful, but not someone she was proud of. The signs were there. I just kept explaining them away. About 6 months in, she introduced me to her work colleagues at some event as a friend. Not her boyfriend. Her friend. I pulled her aside after and asked her about it, and she laughed and said I was being sensitive, that they didn't need to know our business. I let it go because I didn't want to be the guy who starts an argument over a word at a party. A few months after that, I got promoted. Regional Operations Manager. Big jump for me. I was genuinely proud of it. Texted her right away. She responded 4 hours later with "That's great, babe," and a thumbs up. That night she called me to talk about a promotion her coworker got that she thought should have been hers. I listened for 45 minutes. I'm not even exaggerating. Then, about 8 months before the end, she asked me to co-sign a small business credit agreement for her LLC. She was setting it up to manage brand deals properly, and her credit wasn't strong enough to get the agreement alone. I said yes because I trusted her, and I wanted to support what she was building. I signed the paperwork, we moved on, I didn't make a big deal out of it. And through all of this, I was also paying for a lot of things I didn't fully register as a pattern until later. The camera setup I bought her, that was around $1,400. Vacations we took together that she posted as solo travel content, where my contributions were completely invisible. Software subscriptions for her editing workflow. Just quietly, consistently funding someone else's dream while she made me feel like I was lucky to be there. The friend warning came about a year in. She had some friends visit from out of town for a weekend, and I cooked dinner for all of them on Saturday night. Spent a few hours on it. One of her friends pulled me aside and said, "She talks about you so differently when you're not around." I asked what she meant, and the friend got uncomfortable and said never mind. When I brought it up to my girlfriend later, she told me that friend was a drama starter and not to let her get in my head. I stopped trusting my gut. I filed it away. Now here is where the actual story starts. My mother keeps a box of stuff from my high school years. Trophies, a game ball, my old number 11 football jersey. I played receiver, had a decent run, nothing professional, but enough that my family was proud of it. Last Thanksgiving, my mom brought the box out because my younger cousin was there, 13 years old, just made starting quarterback for his middle school team, and my mom thought it might inspire him to see what his older cousin had done at that age. My girlfriend was at Thanksgiving. She saw the box, saw the jersey, smiled, and said it was cute. Just that one word. Cute. I noticed it, but didn't say anything. 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, I walked into my living room and found her going through that same box. She had the jersey laid out flat on the couch and was photographing it with her phone. The box had been in my car since Thanksgiving because I hadn't gotten around to dropping it back at my mom's, and apparently she'd gone through my car and brought it inside without asking me. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Just thought it was funny. Vintage you," she said, smiling like it was nothing. I asked her to put it back. She said she would. I went to my home office to finish up some work. I figured that was the end of it. A Tuesday afternoon, about a week later, my gym buddy texted me a screenshot. She had posted the jersey photo to her Instagram story. The caption said, "Toxic trait, dating a man who peaked in high school. I want you to understand something. This wasn't a private joke between us. This was a public post to 53,000 followers, using a photo she'd taken without my knowledge of something that belonged to my family, designed to get engagement by making me the punchline. And it worked. People were commenting laughing emojis, tagging their friends, the whole thing. I sat with it for 60 seconds. Maybe less. I opened Instagram, found the post, and commented. Toxic trait. Dating someone you're embarrassed by. Then I put my phone down, went to my closet, and grabbed 2 large duffel bags. I packed her things carefully. I wasn't throwing stuff around or breaking anything. I folded her clothes, collected her skincare from the bathroom, grabbed her charger, her laptop, the framed photo of us she kept on my nightstand. I packed everything that was hers into those 2 bags, carried them to my car, and drove 12 minutes to her sister's house. Her sister and I had always gotten along well. She was grounded, direct, no games. I pulled up to the house, carried both bags to the porch, set them down neatly, rang the doorbell, and walked back to my car. Her sister opened the door while I was still pulling out of the driveway. I saw her in the rearview mirror looking at the bags, then at my car. I kept driving. My phone rang 10 minutes later. Her sister. She's been blowing up my phone, her sister said. I just saw the post. Yeah, I said. There was a pause on the line. Honestly, she said. Fair enough. And I thought that was going to be the end of it. It was not the end of it. She blew up my phone for the rest of that evening. First it was calling, then texting, then voicemails. I want to walk you through the voicemails because they tell you everything about who this person is. First voicemail. Can we just talk? You're overreacting. Second voicemail. You embarrass me in front of my followers. Do you know how that looks? Third voicemail started with, I swear to God if you don't call me back I'm going to. And then she hung up. I saved all of them. The next morning I went to work. When I got back home that evening there was a handwritten note tucked under my windshield wiper. I'm going to quote it as accurately as I can because I've read it so many times it's basically memorized. It said, You owe me an apology. The comment you left made brands reach out to drop me. You need to fix this. She left a note on my car telling me I owed her an apology and needed to fix the consequences of a comment I left in response to her public post mocking me. I photographed the note and saved it. Then her mother called me. Now, her mother had inserted herself into our relationship before. She had this way of talking that sounded reasonable, but was actually just pressure with a pleasant voice attached to it. She'd taken her daughter's side in every disagreement we'd ever had, which I'd accepted as a mother being a mother, but this was different. I think you should reconsider, her mother said. She's building her career. What you did has real consequences for her. She posted a photo of my family's belongings and told 53,000 people I peaked in high school, I said. She was joking. She was joking publicly, using something she took from my car without asking to get engagement from strangers. Long pause. I raised her to know her worth, her mother said. I hope she finds someone who matches it, I said. And I ended the call. 2 days later I got texts from a number I didn't recognize. It took a few messages to figure out it was one of her close friends, someone I'd met a handful of times. The gist was that my girlfriend was telling people I had threatened her with my comment and was considering her options. I called a buddy of mine who works in HR for a large company and has navigated workplace and social media disputes before. He told me to document everything immediately. Screenshots with timestamps, the voicemails, the note from my car, all of it. I spent a few hours that evening organizing everything into a folder on my laptop. Good thing I did. About 2 weeks after I ended things, I got called into my manager's office. He closed the door, which he almost never does, and he slid a printed email across the desk to me. My girlfriend had contacted my company's HR department. The email accused me of targeted online harassment, emotional abuse, and creating what she called a hostile digital environment. She was citing my single Instagram comment as the basis for all of it and presenting it as a pattern of threatening behavior. I read the whole thing. Then I read it again. My manager, who has known me for 4 years, leaned back and said, "This doesn't sound like you." "It isn't," I said. "And I can prove it." I went home that evening and pulled up the documentation folder. Everything was there. I also did some research that night and confirmed something important. A single public comment responding to a public post does not meet the legal threshold for harassment under any standard definition used in U.S. employment or civil law. What she'd done was file a knowingly false complaint intended to damage my professional standing, which in most states can itself form the basis of a defamation claim or tortious interference lawsuit. I called a business attorney the next morning. 1 hour, flat fee consultation. I walked him through everything. The relationship, the co-sign agreement I'd signed 8 months prior, the Instagram post, the voicemails, the note on my car, the text campaign through her friend, and the HR complaint. He confirmed what I'd suspected. The HR complaint was legally frivolous, and my employer would almost certainly close it without action. But more importantly, he explained my position on the co-sign agreement. Because I was a guarantor on her business credit agreement, and because she had now taken documented steps to damage my professional and financial standing, I had grounds to formally request removal from the agreement. He drafted a formal notice to send her, and it outlined my rights in the situation, referenced the documented harassment campaign she'd run against me, and requested an immediate restructuring of the agreement to remove me as guarantor. The letter went out certified mail. Meanwhile, my manager submitted the HR complaint to their legal team for review. Within 5 business days, HR sent a written response to my girlfriend stating that a single public social media comment did not constitute actionable harassment and that the complaint was closed. She called me within 3 hours of receiving the attorney's letter.
Different energy this time.
The confidence was completely gone. "What is this?" she asked. "It's a formal notice," I said. "You filed a false complaint with my employer. I have documentation of everything going back weeks. I have grounds for a defamation claim based on the false HR filing, and the attorney's information is in the letter if you have questions."
"You can't do this," she said.
"The process has already started," I said. "I'd also like you to know that I contacted the 2 brands that dropped you after my comment." She went very quiet. "I didn't contact them to hurt you," I said. "I sent them the original post, the voicemails, the note you left on my car, and the documentation of the HR complaint you filed. I gave them the full context of the situation. What they do with that information is their decision." She didn't say anything for a while. "Do not contact my employer again," I said. "Do not contact me. The attorney handles everything from here." I hung up. She deleted the original post 2 days later. 3 days after that, her sister texted me. Short message. "She's been crying for a week. I'm not saying you were wrong. I'm just letting you know." I appreciated her sister for that. She didn't have to reach out. I didn't respond because there was nothing left to say. 6 weeks after I sent the attorney's letter, the guarantor agreement was formally restructured. She'd found a new co-signer, the paperwork went through, and my name was removed from the agreement entirely. The HR file at my company was officially closed with no findings against me. The documentation folder on my laptop is still there just in case. My Instagram comment, last I checked, has over 4,000 likes. Here's the thing I keep coming back to. I spent 2 years being someone's support system, their financial backing, their emotional labor provider, and somewhere in that time she decided that the most interesting thing about me was something she could use to make strangers on the internet laugh. And when I responded, clearly and calmly and in public, she treated it like I had done something unforgivable. The entitlement required to file a formal HR complaint over an Instagram comment you provoked. The entitlement required to leave a note on someone's car telling them to fix the consequences of their own public behavior. The entitlement required to send your mother and your friends after someone and then act like you're the victim of a harassment campaign. I packed 2 bags. I drove 12 minutes. I set them on a porch and rang a doorbell. And her own sister said, "Honestly, fair enough. That's the whole story. Make of it what you will." If this story had you nodding along, hit subscribe because apparently I've got a talent for dating people who think patience is the same thing as weakness, and I've got more stories where this came from.